Nintendo has never been bashful about re-releasing old games. In fact, they do this quite shamelessly, and why shouldn't they? When you have a catalog of classics as thick as Nintendo, there's always a market for a port of a 20-year-old game. The problem with a port like that is, of course, the apparent laziness and greed that fuels it. Nintendo sells these old games at a high price with absolutely no changes or improvements. At least that's what they do sometimes. Other times, they do stuff like this. One of the most promising aspects of the eShop service on the Nintendo DS is the 3D Classics line. This is a series of classic games re-released with the 3D visual effect. But to accomplish that, Nintendo actually has to rework these games from the ground up. A lot of effort goes into a 3D Classics game, a lot more than the usual Nintendo re-release. And that added effort is what turns this from outdated rehash to fantastic revision. This is the first game in the 3D Classics line. This is 3D Classics Excitebike for the Nintendo 3DS. Roughly the 37th port Excitebike has received since its original release in 1985, this new version of Excitebike is perhaps the first to offer its own fresh take on the classic. And clearly, the changes fueling that fresh take are presentational. The 3D effect, the gorgeous widescreen display. Excitebike has never looked better, but even more importantly, it also has a host of other minor improvements, and to me, this is the definitive version of Excitebike. And the reason for that is simple. The game plays as well as it ever has, but playing it through this gorgeous new window feels like a whole new experience. The pixels are crisp even in 2D, and when the 3D effect is on, they pop off the screen better than even a lot of retail 3DS games achieve. Now, it doesn't improve the game, but seeing the 3D effects applied to 2D pixels looks way cooler than you might have expected. The game's also really polished and well preserved. On the one hand, that means Nintendo's team at Erica didn't add any new modes or anything. This is basically the same Excitebike feature set as the NES original. But they put a lot of effort into ensuring 3D Classics Excitebike is as perfect as that strict adherence allows. Perhaps the best addition to 3D Classics Excitebike are the save slots. Excitebike had an awesome track editor on the NES, but saving your creations was impossible. On the 3DS though, it's just a matter of choosing a file. Erica has added 32 different save slots for track designs, and they've made the interface much more user-friendly. If you spent hours creating new Excitebike tracks on the NES, this is like the utopian ideal you never thought you'd live to see. Of course, the drawback is that nothing else has really been added to that. You can't share your tracks or play online or anything like that. But this isn't meant to be a new Excitebike. It's an old classic with a spectacular facelift. So in defense of Erica, adding new content was probably never an option. 3D Classics Excitebike is an awesome remake that actually has some effort behind it. It's the best version of the classic Excitebike that I've ever played. And if your engine doesn't overheat at the thought of paying $5 for it, 3D Classics Excitebike is an easy, if somewhat overpriced recommendation.